Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another episode of Trenton Chappell Live. It's another 2 episode week. Man, I love these. So much work. Today I am joined today by Miss Laura Hill. She is running for House District 93, correct? Yes.
Yes. Yep.
How are you doing, Miss Hill? How are you?
Great. Well, thanks for having me. This will be fun. I'm busy. My feet are sore.
I
my
bet.
I'm surprised I don't have laryngitis because I hear a little bit of it as I've been talking to a lot of people. So yeah, I'm good. Thank you for the opportunity to sit down.
Of course, of course. You know, we were talking before we started the show about going through a campaign, and I've talked to councilmen, mayors, and they all have running a campaign is not an easy task. There is some ups and there's some downs. What has been the up, biggest down in this campaign for you? And then we'll get to the ups.
Oh gosh, the biggest down. I think there's a little disappointment in how many people don't vote. When after you've walked your first 1,000 doors, and you realize there's like a gap of 15 houses between voters. I think that makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
It really does. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to believe, even
Yeah.
because we live in such a great state in the greatest country in the world, and it's hard to believe that more people don't vote. So that's the only thing I would say has been really hard. And I'm not going to lie, there are a lot of times that you're just super tired, and all you want to do is go home and sit on the sofa and binge Netflix, and you just don't get to do it. That's going to have to get postponed until later.
Yeah, it's after you win, all right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
We'll have a binge watch of Netflix after you win, all right?
There you
What's been the biggest up for you? Like, is it meeting new people, or is it just the experience?
Yeah, obviously meeting the people. I was a city council person for a long time, and then the mayor in the city of Southlake. And that was always my thing. I loved being out in the community, talking to people, being accessible to people. But what I really have enjoyed so much is that, in Tarrant County, no matter where you live, our issues are really all the same. So whether they're traffic, transportation, taxes, we're all talking about the same things. And it's wonderful listening to people share their stories of why they came, not just to Texas, but why they settled in Tarrant County. So
Yeah.
I feel like I could write a book of all the great conversations that I've had with folks on the campaign trail.
Yeah, because I've helped with campaigns. I've attended a couple of campaign events,
Mhm.
uh, even almost ran for something.
Oh,
I
wow.
did, yes. I almost ran. So when I turned 18, I was like, I'm gonna run for mayor as a joke. It was a joke because in Texas you could run as a mayor as 18, and I didn't win. Obviously, I mean, you don't see me in the mayor's office right now. But
I think you need one of those fake
right, like
backgrounds
the presidential
on
one.
Zoom. You can be anybody.
I'm gonna get that when I become mayor. I'm gonna put like the White House background in. I'm like, this is where I'm at, right?
There you go.
A run for city council. I've helped with campaigns for them. Coming from a mayor, is what do you expect to be different winning that if you become that house? What do you expect to be the differences between there? One's a smaller thing, one's bigger.
Right. But there's more similarities than differences, because when you're the mayor of a city, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
You literally are in the grocery store at 7:30 in the morning on Saturday with your baseball cap on, and they spot you. And if they have a question or something that's on their mind, you need to take the time to talk to them about it and hopefully get it resolved. The other great thing about being a mayor is you learn really quickly how to get information for your residents, how to point them in the right direction, who can help you get certain things done. And I think on the state level, I see very much a similar thing happening, knowing who the people are who are the best and the brightest when it comes to different issues, so that when you make decisions, you don't make them in a vacuum. You consider the unintended consequences, not just to how it affects everyone in the state, but most importantly, quite frankly, is how does it affect the people in House District 93? And so having those groups of connectors that you can reach out to and pull them together on a Zoom and say, this is how I'm going to be voting, this is what I'm looking at, please tell me what I'm missing. So
Right.
a lot of those same skills that you learn as a mayor, I think will be very beneficial in Austin.
Oh, right. So 93 is Austin area, correct?
93 is the Alliance Corridor. It's I'm sitting here in Justin, Texas right now. That's where my office is. And 2 miles down the road is the Denton County line. And HD 93 is that the central northern section of Tarrant County. So really 820 north out of Fort Worth, the northern side of 820, all the way up the Alliance Corridor, I-35.
All right.
And we've got Blue Mound, Saginaw, and Hazlet, but the majority of 93 is North Fort Worth.
All right. All right. Are you a Texas resident? Like, are you naturally born Texan?
No, I have a son who's a Texan, but the rest of our family got here as soon as we could. So actually, my parents came here in the 80s
Okay.
and started a family business. And then in the early 90s, my father came to me and said, I need you. I'm the oldest. So I got guilted into coming to Texas to join the family business. So,
All right.
and then we settled here. All three of my children are in their 20s and early 30s, and they all live here in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about some of your policies that you want to introduce if you win, when you win. Let's just say that. I want to talk about education. Um, right now, education it's broken. We have a lot of issues in it, including parents not being involved with education for their children. If elected, what is your plan to get parents more involved in their children's education?
Well, the first thing I want to do is compliment parents because parents, I think generations of parents handed our children off to the school district. I think my generation of parents pulled up in front of the school and the kids jumped out, or you put the kids on the bus, and you really, other than the homework that came home, you weren't really paying a lot of attention to what was happening. And so this generation of parents with young children in elementary schools and middle schools in particular are the ones who, during COVID, when the classroom door closed, the door opened for them and they got to see what was going on and what their children were learning. And a lot of parents said, hey, hang on a second. I didn't know we were talking about social emotional learning. I didn't know that, you had access to books like that. So parents have demanded a seat at the table. And that's really the only way to have an effective public school system, is for parents to be the partner. I do think over the years, parents have been pushed out of the classroom. I mean, when my kids were younger, I spent, I think it was Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday morning doing Wednesday folders. So I was in the school and then I was in the classroom talking to the teacher. And then I remember one day they just told us they didn't need us to help with that anymore. And I think that's just symptomatic of where we're at today. So the legislature can do things on a large scale, but it really, at the end of the day, which and on the large scale is important, obviously, on huge policies, on working with the Texas Education Group and making sure that we're all on the same page. But at the end of the day, it's really our superintendents and our local school boards that are making the decisions on the local level. And we've got to give them the tools to make the right decisions. And we have to step in at the state level if they're not making the right decisions. But I think parents need to be empowered, and parents have more power at the local level. It's much easier to kick a local city council person, a local mayor, a local trustee out of office than it is to get rid, let's be honest, to get rid of the superintendent. So we've got to make sure that we're electing the right people that hire the right superintendents.
Right, right. Completely agree with you because when I was in high school, I remember being taught not really the fundamentals of things. Like, one, I believe that the STAR test should be abolished 100%. Like, we should get rid of that immediately because, one, teachers aren't teaching students. They're, let me rephrase that. They're not properly teaching us. They're teaching things that are on a test and
Mm-hmm.
not for social lives, preparing us for the future. And like I remember sitting in class like confused out of my mind. Why are we learning about X, Y, and Z when I'm never going to experience X, Y, and Z in my future? I mean, I'm working in media. I never get to see uh, X find X and X equals 2 times 3. I never experienced that. So we need to figure out something like a way to where students are actually being taught things that's going to help them in the future, to where they can benefit in life. That's what I think personally.
Well, we
Um,
definitely need different tracks. And it's interesting when you
yes.
talk to the superintendents, they say the same thing. You do need some type of testing to make sure the kids are getting out of high school with the basics so that they can go into media, they can go into, being a locksmith and AC, all the basics of good business so that hopefully they'll be successful at whatever it is they decide to do, whether they're on a college track or not. That being said, testing needs to be a part of it, but we need to open up the process to have other elements that may have even more weight than just a test. And you're right, it's like I talked about earlier, the unintended consequences. So the unintended consequences of having this huge test that determines so much about where the school is ranked, what is the unintended consequence of that? The teachers are going to teach to the test
Yep.
because they're afraid that if their numbers are low, they're going to get in trouble, their school's going to get a bad ranking, their district will be negatively impacted.
Yes. I want to talk about public safety real quick because I have an issue that goes into public safety. First off, I want to ask you, do you have plans to defund the police here in
Oh my
Texas?
I'll tell you a true story. So I'm mayor in the city of Southlake, and we had a lot of turmoil, the student uprising, which was obviously not just students, it was a lot of parents that were behind the scenes telling us how horrible our city was. And so they appointed the school district, our elected officials appointed a group of citizens who didn't answer to anybody and said, okay, go out and write a new student code of conduct. And they broke everyone up into little groups. It was during COVID, so no one could talk to each other. And they brought back this document that obviously some lawyer wrote. But I hadn't seen the document. I'm the mayor, I'm not the superintendent, so they had no reason to share it with me. And as it turned out, there was a reason they didn't share it with me. But they called me and they said, hey, Mayor, we need to jump on a Zoom because we have a group of students that have made some demands, and one or two in particular one is a decision. It's going to have to be your call. So they sent over a document and I looked through it and I started highlighting. I felt like I was in college. I'm like, what? Well, number 16, as I recall, was they wanted me, the mayor, to take all of the school resource officers off of every campus in Carroll ISD. The city put them in the schools in a joint agreement. The city paid for those officers to be in the schools, but they said that those officers were giving them PTSD. So they wanted to know how I felt about that. And I said, my first answer was tell them to go to hell. And of course they can't say that. So I guess, well, I would have said it. And I said, well, then tell them over my dead body. But it was a horrible, defund the police. What are they even talking about?
So
What
wait,
is that?
students wanted the school security pretty much out of there.
Right. Well, they're resource officers. So yes, they are security in the sense that heaven forbid anybody,
Yeah.
to the school, but they're also there to talk to the kids and
Yeah.
to guide the kids and to be a shoulder to lean on. And I found it so interesting because for years we were told, we need officers in the schools so the kids have someone to talk to if there's bullying, or many of the tragic school shootings. My gosh, just having a police car out in the parking lot, the parents all wanted an officer in every school. All of a sudden, overnight, all of a sudden officers are a problem because somebody woke up and decided that just walking past the officer in the school gave them PTSD.
Of I want to know of what PTSD of what? Did was there a recent school shooting in that district?
Oh, no, no, no. It was, but it was after the George Floyd was killed.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was this whole feeling of, police give me a bad feeling about myself. Police don't make me feel safe. I'm afraid the one girl said, if I look at an officer the wrong way in my school, that could ruin the entire day for me because he's going to question me. And it was made up fantasy to make their story sound compelling.
Yeah.
And it was,
I will
but
say this, hands
you know
down,
yeah,
the
yeah.
best state that has the best police force is Texas.
Oh,
I will
yeah.
say that. I know I live in the Arlington area. And I know a few police officers, and I've been pulled over for like registrations issues or like lights. I've been treated like everybody else. Hey, here's your ticket. Just get that fixed. I've never had an issue with a police officer, and I get that there's so many people that have, but I've never had. I honestly do believe that the best police in any state is Texas, because one, we don't have all these issues that other states are having. Have you
Yeah.
seen any issues of Texas having anything like this?
Well, no, I think but I think look at the people, the majority still, the vast majority of people that live in Texas who believe that law abiding people should have
Hmm.
guns, that teach their children about guns, that, are engaged and are involved in their children's lives and have relationships in communities.
Yeah.
I moved out of a community that was, we celebrated our police and our firefighters, and we celebrated the job that they did. We came out on National Night Out. We put together scholarships for their children, many of the philanthropies. So, I think that is a Texas thing. I
Yeah.
think it absolutely is a Texas thing, and we have had very few problems because we are very pro. We're not just pro law enforcement; we're pro law, right? And we're pro law. Mhm.
Yeah. So on the topic of still public safety, what is your plan to make schools safer for children? We've been having a lot of these school shootings happening, a lot of threats, gang violence, especially not in particular to a school, but the Parks Mall here in Arlington has issued a new rule saying like people under 18 have to wear badge like bracelets and have to be accompanied by people 21 and over due to gang violence. I believe it's gang violence, honestly. Uh, what is your plan to make it safer for children in any public place?
Well, let me say first that I think one of the things that's happening to Texas is that so many companies are moving to Texas and they are within their bringing jobs, and that's also bringing a huge influx of population. We have some of the fastest growing metropolitan area, Dallas Fort Worth, where I am, fastest growing metropolitan areas in the country. So with that comes crime. And so that, especially in the big cities as they continue to grow. So on the state level, I think some of the things that the governor has done, not in this last legislative in particular, but the one before, in making sure that schools did, have safety glass and making sure that the entries were secure and making sure that it's hard to get onto a school campus. It should be really hard to get into a school campus. But more importantly, making sure that our officers, no matter where they are in the state, have the equipment and the best of the best so that they can do the job to the best of their ability. And so that means supporting them. That means having body cameras. That means having, the best equipment. That means having the best training and making sure at the state level, we can make sure that we hold our officers and our police in a high esteem. That whole message, it reverberates throughout the state. But really at the local level is where we need to be making sure we're spending the money so that our police officers have everything that they need to do the job effectively, especially the training and the equipment.
Yes. Um, Another topic that's number two on what you're fighting for is secure the border.
Mhm.
Um, our border is a little wonky, isn't it?
It's
What?
harder. I said during talk, it's harder to get back into our country as a United States citizen as it is to cross over the border when you're not a United States citizen. Go figure. But yeah, it's that's another situation where Texas is going to have to be the leader. You know, a lot is expected of Texas. But a lot is has been given to Texas, right? We are an economic engine in the United States of America, and so people look to us and look to our leadership. Boy, I mean, how many presidents have been governors of Texas, right? I mean, Texas is just a shining star. So when it comes to the border, obviously that affects us with not only drugs coming over the border, but human trafficking, with just people coming into our country and disappearing, and the number of felons, literally felon, people that would be put in jail for life in our country, criminals that are coming into our country. If we don't do something, no one else is going to be a leader. And certainly the White House we have now is not going to do anything about it. So the governor has stepped in. He's put billions and billions of dollars with the legislator into getting the wall built. And I think he's on the right path.
So are you a supporter of the wall?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, way overdue. I was excited when President Trump first started. I mean, he just wouldn't take no for an answer because so many presidents had brought it up and then walked away because it was so controversial. And finally, people have gotten so fed up, and we finally had a president who said, "I'll take the arrows, but we need to put the wall up." So he accomplished a lot. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of that with the Biden White House.
Yes. Our border is so. I've talked to many different types of Republicans too who are for the wall and against the wall. Uh, for the against people, it's mainly for population purposes. And I'm sitting here going, our population is fine. It's we, in fact, it's overdue. I think
Right.
that's the reason why many people, statistically aren't having children. It's just there's so many people and it's growing. And if you keep letting more people in, we're gonna have another China issue, to where it's to the point where we're like all like this and in people's faces. So we have to have limits. I'm perfectly fine with people coming into this country legally. I'm always welcome. That's the American dream, coming here and legally and starting your life. And so, yes, 100%. We gotta find a way to fix it and make it fair for everybody. That's how it works. It's no matter what you agree with, somebody's always gonna disagree with you.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
welcome to America. But
The
yeah,
land of the home of the free and the brave and the opinions.
yes, that's right. Watch, they're gonna change the national anthem to that. I want to talk about the Second Amendment. I am a 100% Second Amendment advocate for it. I believe that everybody should have a gun. At least know how to operate a gun in case of anything else happens. If you read the Second Amendment, it's there just in case the government takes over.
Mhm.
Um, I find it super funny that people don't want it, and the government is like, "No, we should get rid of it." That's literally a sign of takeover. Do you
Mhm.
believe that?
I think that we have a constitutional right to have our guns. There was a reason our forefathers, they were brilliant, and there's a reason that is placed in that document, and we can look to it. And I have my CHL. I know we don't have to have the permit anymore, but I've had my CHL for, gosh, 15 years. I'm not a good shot at all, but I have my gun. I know how to use it. And the only time that I would ever have to use my gun is if someone came into my house
Mm.
and I had to use my gun. I will be a good shot if that happens. After my Rottweiler gets through with them, I'm next.
Woo.
But yeah, but I have a father who fought in the Korean War, and that back then they brought their guns home with them. My
Mm.
father still has many of his guns, and as a little girl, I remember the riots. It would have been the early 60s, the riots in Washington, D.C., and the city burning. And we lived just outside what was called back then the Beltway. The Beltway was brand new. And, we lived in one of those neighborhoods where every third house looked exactly the same, little teeny one story or split levels. And I remember sitting there in the living room watching my dad sit on the sofa with his gun because they had told us that, the rioters were coming out to the suburbs. And I can't, people always act like, oh, that could never happen. It happened. It happened. So leave us alone. Let law-abiding people have their guns. You don't have to worry about me, and I'm sure we don't have to worry about you. We take care of our guns. But I was telling someone the other day, I remember when my daughter had a sleepover, and it's been years now, she's in her young 30s, and a parent had called me to see if we had guns in the house. And I said, yes. And she said, well, my child can't come to your house. And I said, well, the guns aren't loaded and laying on the kitchen table. I don't know what is this conversation. I'm a responsible gun owner. My guns are locked away. So we need to be given more credit. And unfortunately, the bad people are going to get their hands on.
That's what we got to figure out. Is
anything they want.
We got to figure out. That's the one thing we need to figure out is how we're getting illegal guns.
Yeah.
Like, that's the big ticket item is how are we getting these illegal contraband into the States, and where is it coming from? One, who's selling it? Who's supplying it? That's our main target right now. Not, American guns owned by American people who have the right to own it. Right. And that's the main thing we got to figure out. Well,
exactly.
Ms. Hill, today's episode is sponsored. Oh my gosh. Have you heard of Poddex?
No. Poddex? No. What's a Poddex?
Let me tell you about Poddex, Ms. Hill. Poddex are these cool deck of cards that allow podcasters, interviewers, anybody that wants to have a good conversation, have deck of cards that have questions on them, and makes the topics more interesting. It's gonna be fun.
Maybe.
Yes. Today's deck we're gonna be using is the interview deck, which is just loaded with different types of questions, from serious to funny to who knows. Nothing bad, I promise you. But if you guys want to get your hands on Poddex, you can go to poddex.com and use promo code TCLIVE to get 10% off your first purchase. Again, that's TCLIVE. TC Live. Get 10% off your first purchase. Now, are you ready for your interview?
Sure.
All right. What do you consider to be your greatest achievement? Oh, yeah.
Raising my 3 children.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
All right. Stole my answer, but it's all right. No, I think I'll answer them with you, so it's fair. My greatest achievement is having my company built, being a part of 2 other companies, and being 21, and still, that's the American dream. And thriving and having my production company in a movie theater, and just it right there, seeing it live, and it was awesome. And right now, that's my greatest achievement. My next thing is to see my face on billboards soon. I know.
That could happen.
It could happen. If you could teach a class in any topic, what would you teach?
Women in leadership, without a doubt. I do not think that young women, I hate to see a generation of women that don't understand that they can do anything or be anything and not get in their own way by saying this isn't fair. I hate that whole fairness conversation. Women have to lose it. We have to own who we are. We have to own that we are different in business. We are different in politics. And I would love to see more women just jump into leadership instead of kind of hiding in the background so that they don't make any, women are always worried about making enemies, or someone's not going to like me. We got to get past that because we have a lot to offer.
Besides yourself, this is a side question. Besides yourself, who do you think should be the first woman president?
Oh my gosh. I love Nikki Haley, but I was always a huge fan of Condoleezza Rice, and I'm really
Oh,
sorry that she never ran. She is the most gracious. Maybe she's too nice to be the president. I think presidents have to have this, ooh, they have to have this edge that a lot of people don't have. But yeah, I like Nikki Haley a lot, and I love Condoleezza Rice.
good choices. Those are good choices. I would have to agree with you on those because I think during one of the elections, Bush voted for Rice, as he
Uh,
just wrote her in. He's like, I voted
yeah,
for her.
yeah.
If you can guarantee one thing in life besides money, what would it be?
Health,
Health.
health.
Yeah.
And not so much for myself, but for my mom and dad are elderly. My dad's 91, my mom is 89. It's been a really tough year for my mom, and their life changed overnight because my mother slipped and fell. So I know we're going to die someday, but I just want to go to bed and not wake up. I don't want to see my parents suffer, so
Mm,
I would wish for help.
that's a good one. I would have to say, ooh, I'll say knowledge.
Mm,
Just done. There you go. I got it.
yeah, yeah.
Which living person do you most admire?
I think I have to go back to Condoleezza Rice. I'm like a fangirl when it comes to her. Even, and you know who else I really like lately? Talking about podcasts, I'm addicted to Megan Kelly's podcast. I'm usually into murder, real like true crime stuff. That's sort of, yeah,
Really?
I got like I'm really into it. But no, I listen to Megan Kelly pretty religiously because, kind of Lisa Rice is more writing books. Every once in a while, I'll get to, hear a lecture that's on YouTube, but I don't, she's not out there speaking and to where I can follow it.
Mhm.
So, and I've read all her books, but Megan Kelly, I really enjoy her style. And she's just a no BS woman.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no BS.
All right. Uh, what do you value most in your friends?
Loyalty, without a doubt.
That's a good one.
Loyalty. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's that's probably been one of the hardest things about running for higher office. Well, it's been one of the hardest things about transitioning from being the mayor of a city to running for higher office, or I guess just the end of my term was the end of some friendships,
Mm,
right? Because they obviously were never friendships to begin with. So I haven't had a lot of time to self-reflect because I was going to take, a year or two off and relax. And I decided to run for higher office. But I think at some point I'd like to sit down quietly over a couple of months and think about some of the people that have been in my life and why were they in my life in the first place?
yeah.
Because they didn't, they didn't care anything about me. They just cared about what they got out of me.
Yes. I'm in that. What's funny is I'm that same setting myself.
Mm.
Too. I've lost so many friends recently due to
Really?
just just different ideas and it's bizarre that we can lose friends that way. Just be like, I believe in this and they don't, so oh, it's over.
Uh,
These are people that I've grown up with and I've known. Like, I've really told one of them like, you're like my brother, and
mm.
then they're like, bye. I was like, oh, okay, so you weren't that with me, cool. But then you get the ones that stick with you, no matter what your flaws or your opinions or whatever you have. Those are your true friends,
Right.
and they're the ones that'll pick you up and push you back down. That's a friend.
Yeah, that's a that's
uh,
a
what do you consider to be the most overrated virtue?
I'm sorry, the most overrated what virtue?
Virtue, yeah.
You go first.
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
I know the most overrated virtue.
uh,
Um,
let's see. Let me look up different types of virtues. Hang on.
well, honesty.
Yeah,
But
that's a good one.
I don't think there are any that are overrated.
Yeah.
Maybe, well, I don't know. I guess maybe some kinds of manners. I grew up. I grew up, I'm a lot older than you. So I grew up when you didn't talk about politics or religion. And that you just didn't. It was that was part of being socially, it was socially unacceptable to talk about those things. And I think all this honesty, like I'm going to tell you everything I think about everything is not a good thing, because I think there are conversations, to your point earlier, there are people I have no reason to have a political or a religious conversation with. I know them because I knew their children when they were young, and I want to keep up with how their kids are doing. And that's what we have in common. And that's what I want to talk to them about. So I think this whole oversharing, I think oversharing isn't a virtue, but I think being overly honest
Yes.
is too much.
You know what? You know what is overrated? Generosity. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
My kids wouldn't agree with you on that.
I mean, honestly, like that's a hard question because there's a lot of them that are good that you need. You know, here we go. This I just looked up examples of virtue. Laziness.
Oh, wow.
Overrated.
Very
There
overrated.
we
If
go.
you haven't binged a Netflix show for the weekend, no, I mean, you've got to accept that you can be lazy when you need to be lazy. It's a
Speaking of
good
which,
thing.
you're you're a huge true crime fan.
Yeah.
Have you seen the newest Netflix series, true crime series about John Wayne Gacy?
Oh, I've read every book on him. Okay, so I have a serious issue with true crime. Like
Don't worry.
it goes back many years to even the only way you could learn about these crazy serial killers was to read books about them. And I read all the books about them. So I watched it. I will say it gets a little disturbing. And I like understanding why people did what they did. I don't think I like the gory details of the actual crimes so much. So yeah, but that's a crazy. I like more of the shows where people are just dastardly, where they rip people off and they get online and they work these women over and take all their money. I cannot understand.
Netflix also just released a Abercrombie and Finch scandal documentary.
Oh, yes, I watched that the other day. I
And
had no idea that was going on. And that was everyone shopped there I kind of missed Abercrombie and Fitch. I want to say I was a little too old for it. But I remember when the stores were the hottest thing happening in the mall. I mean,
I still protest them. I still never go
there.
Nah, man.
I never bought anything from there, but yeah, they were the first ones that came in and made a mall store look like it was a hangout where like you had to come in, you couldn't see inside unless you went in, and it was like the cool kids worked there.
And I remember like going in there and the music was blaring loud.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can't hear anything. What? And just it was like one of those stores. But yeah, they just released those, phenomenal, both of them. They're interesting to learn about. And yeah, like, did you ever watch the House of Gucci show?
Oh gosh, yes, that's great. Yeah. See, I like that kind of stuff where everything goes wrong, but to real people.
Yeah.
I love that real life crime drama that's like not the gory. I like the, con artists. I love the con artist stuff. And but yeah, that Gucci story, there's a lot of those big families that made a lot of money that totally turned out to be crazy. So
most rich families out there are crazy.
Yeah, I guess.
All right, this is a funny question. When were your parents most disappointed in you? Ooh.
Oh, wow. When were my parents? Well, I have to preface my comment by saying I'm the oldest.
Yeah.
And so I've lived my whole life trying to please my parents. But I know it was my first report card in college. I went to college. I was a really good student in high school, went to college, got into my choice. I was thrilled to death to escape my parents. And I honestly thought my classes were going to be a breeze. And then I discovered a social life. I had never had a social life. I think I don't even know that I ever drank before I went to college. And this is the 70s, so things were different. And actually, the drinking age was 18 when I was in college, or when I was in high school too. So yeah, my first report card, I want to say I either got all C's or I got 2 B's and all C's. And oh, my father threatened to come take me out of college and bring me home, and he told me I was going to be a secretary for the rest of my life.
Oh
So.
my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, my
Wow.
parents, well, according to my parents, that they had to mortgage, the house and everything they owned to put me
Yeah.
through college. So, I mean, I don't take anything away from them. They worked very hard to put me through college. And I was my dad was the first to go to college in our family. I was the second. So it was a really big thing. And for me to go and party the whole first semester instead of get good grades was the big problem.
Wow. Wow. Well, stay in school, kids.
Bad memories.
I mean, honestly, my parents are still disappointed in me all the time.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. For me, honestly, it probably was when in high school, I was terrible in physics, and I've never failed a class before. Like, I always fought through it and got like a 70 and be like, I passed. Go, yes. But this was like the first time ever I got like a 40 in a class and
oh
failed
wow.
it.
Yeah.
And I remember telling them, I was like, I just failed physics. Oh my gosh. I still have the picture of my mom's face because I took a picture of it. And it was just livid, like eyes bulging out, just angry. And I was like, I'm not good at science. I'm sorry. But I got 3 tickets, so it was all fine. We're all cool. I got to graduate
It
on
all worked
time.
out. It all worked out.
But yeah, I think that's the only time they were disappointed on like a scale like that. Nothing else. I haven't really done much. I'm not a big party person. I just don't like people. I'd make a great politician, wouldn't I?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wasn't a much of a party person after I got in trouble that first semester in
I
college.
bet not.
Yeah, that was the end of my partying days. So
What are you currently curious about?
curious. Well, right now, obviously, I'm super curious about how the Texas legislature works. For me, the more people I've gotten to know, and so much goes on in Austin that I absolutely had no idea. And I've always been a student, a political student. I love strategy. I've always loved campaigning. I've loved the thought process that goes into decision making. And I hope I'm fortunate enough to serve the folks in HD 93 because I will become a student of how Austin works and how we get the people's work done in the legislature. So really just an extension of what I've always done. I've always been really, really inquisitive, I'm not a book, I don't run to a book and look things up.
Yeah.
I would rather have a conversation with you or call someone who I know is doing whatever it is I'm interested in finding more out about. I guess maybe growing up without Google, Google isn't my first go-to. I go to people.
Yeah, because I'm a very visual person. So if I see how somebody else is doing it, and they show me, okay, so you're gonna press this button, Trenton, and then you're gonna do this, pull this lever, and then you're gonna look over there, make sure the light's on, and they do that. I can master it in like one take. That's how I learn. And I can't. I hate reading stuff. I hate it. One is because my ADHD and dyslexia, so things start to pop off the page, and I'm sitting there like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And so it's just like eh, I'd rather watch something than read it, and yeah, it's a whole ordeal, and I'm just really really fun.
Yeah. I have a dyslexic son. Actually, I have 2 children that are dyslexic, but one that was severely dyslexic.
Yeah.
And so I watch him. He's exactly like you. He loves visual. If you show him, he can do it. If you're going to explain it to him and ask him to go, you like, which is why YouTube is so
Oh
fabulous,
yeah.
right? You just click on YouTube, watch someone else do it, and then you do it. See, I can't do that. I need the explanation. I need practice. I need someone over my shoulder. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, you could pick left, right, or middle.
Uh, right.
Right. So this one, yes. What is your most treasured possession?
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to say my wedding ring. It's beautiful. It was designed just for
Oh
me.
wow.
And it's Irish love knots, and we put a diamond in it. And I yeah, I don't, I'm not a big jewelry person. I don't even have earrings on. I'm looking at myself going, what was I thinking about? I'm just not a jewelry person, but I always have this ring. It means the world to me. It's funny. It's like the only thing I have that I've honestly thought, what, who do I want to have this when I'm no longer in this world?
Hmm.
And I don't really think I have anything else that I'm that concerned. Certainly nothing material. Yeah.
See, that's hard for me. I can't even pick out anything. Like, if I were to go, I pretty much have nothing to give people. Like,
Yeah.
I've made the joke going, if when I go, I want everything I have buried with me. So like, it's just a giant hole. And so I've always made that joke. But yeah, I mean, my most prized possession was, I don't know, probably the very first camera I've gotten. Cause I do a lot
Oh,
of film and stuff, and my uncle gave me like this big, humongous camera, one of those. So like you look through a little thing and used to record like commercials and movies, and I have it stored away like in a safe place. Probably that, but anything else, yeah, this could all go in the garbage if it wants to.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, left or right?
Left or right? Right.
Right.
I'm sure as heck not going to say left, Trenton.
Oh, I get you. Okay, so I'll put them both over here.
Touche.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Think about myself.
Oh yeah.
I would like to not be so judgmental.
Mm.
I have to constantly, I know I'm old enough now that I know when I get into that, like, okay, I'm looking extra hard. I'm going to start judging. And so I can stop myself. But yeah, I would like, I'd rather be more chill. I'd
Yeah.
rather be more chill. I really would. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that hard. You can do it. Anybody can do it. Just this is what you do, okay? After you win, once you get in the office, you're gonna sit there and go, "All right, I'm in
Feet up
charge."
on the desk, feet up on the
Yeah.
desk. So
Feet up on the desk. It's like,
yeah.
"All right, here we go."
Yeah.
Last
Exactly.
question: who are your heroes in real life?
Who are my heroes in real life? Definitely my dad,
Mm.
without a doubt. My dad, I worked with my dad for 24 years, every single day. And I still, my parents take care of themselves, but I would say I'm their primary caregiver. My sister lives in Europe. My brother doesn't live nearby. So I just believe in my dad. I believe in the life lessons that he's taught me. I think I am the person I am in large part because of his influence. I love my mom and dad dearly, but my father and I are very, very close. And I think when having worked, in a father-daughter business for that many years, it takes a special relationship for that to work.
Yeah.
So I absolutely adore my father. He is a self-made man. He's the American dream. He has the Purple Heart. He fought for our country, and he's set a great example for me in everything he's ever done.
Shout out, Dad.
Shout out, Dad.
I guess to answer that question, I would say my mom, even though she annoys the heck out of me. Like, come on, every kid
Her
has
eyes bulge.
eyes bulge out when I fail a class. No, my mom is a very awesome person to where, when I was like my first 10 years of living from 1 to 10, she was a single mom. taking care of me, working like 3 jobs,
Wow.
and doing her best to do what she could. And seeing where she's at now, she's a paralegal. She's one of the
Mm,
most like respected paralegals in like all family law. Everybody
wow.
knows her name. Everybody knows my name now too because of her. but
Amazing.
everywhere I go, they go, "Oh, this is Summer's kid." I'm like, "Yep, that's me." Um, but she's awesome. She's taught me a lot to be who I am, be independent, be don't let anybody judge you for who you are because you're you. You don't let any other people tell you who you are. And she's always taught me that. And shout out to you, mom. But yeah, sorry for fighting with you yesterday. But but yeah,
That's life,
you know, you
right?
know, you got mothers and sons get into fights all the time. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, and daughters too. So
oh
we.
yeah. But yeah, so guys, if you guys like those questions and you want to hear the rest of them, buy the pack at poddex.com. Use promo code TCLAVE to get 10% off your first purchase. There's other decks too, guys. There's the What the Heck deck, which is green, ooh, which are a bunch of random questions, which I was not going to ask you. And the Would You Rather deck, which is a bunch of Would You Rather questions. But they have a True Crime deck, which is like,
Oh,
about questions about true crime and all that fun stuff. They even have an app, Poddex, the app, where I have all of them digitally, so you guys don't have to waste paper. But yeah, Miss Hill, thank you so much for being on today's show. It was awesome talking to you and picking your brain about certain topics. And honestly, it was an honor to talk to you. And I wish you the best of luck in your campaign.
thank you very much. It was my honor too. Thank you for having me.
Is there anything you want to shout out before we go?
No, I just think it's funny. We both picked out our mom and our dad,
Yep.
and we started this whole conversation today talking about the importance of parents. So there
Yep.
you have it, where we started and where we ended. I'm living proof that, parents are, we both are, that parents are a huge, hugely important to how their children turn out. And so we have to constantly watch and make sure that our children are learning and hearing the things that are important in our family, because someday we want our child on a podcast saying that mom or dad was the most important person in their life.
Oh, yeah. Guys, if you're going to learn more about Miss Laura Hill, check out laurahillfortexas.com. It's her website. And follow her on all her stuff. She's awesome. Very nice woman. Thank you again so much for being on the show today. And guys, we're out of here. Have a good evening. Have a good week. And happy Mother's Day. It's coming up.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
It is coming up. But
Great.
yeah, guys, we're
Thank
out of
you.
here. Peace out.
Thank you.